But Peter Mandelson, he's in trouble today. The SNP Reform UK, they've reported him to the Metropolitan Police after emails suggested he forwarded internal government information to Jeffrey Epstein when he was business secretary in 2009. So this is stuff about Gordon Brown, this is stuff about government dealings, this is stuff that you could benefit if you played the markets and whatever. So it's all serious accusations.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also been revealed that the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown asked a top civil servant to investigate a Mandelson leak to Epstein, but Number 10 didn't actually do anything about it.
Well, the files that have been released now suggest that Mandelson gave Epstein advance notice of a £500 billion bailout from the EU to save the euro. And the government has said it will provide whatever support police need for any investigation.
Now, remember, Epstein was a financier. I mean, that's, on the surface, that's how he made his money, by playing the money market. So giving him tip-offs about what's happening with the British government.
And he could see the value in that, with the likes of you and me would be absolutely
Exactly. So we're joined now by writer and broadcaster Emma Trimble to talk about that. Emma, I think of all the stuff we're learning from these Epstein files, millions and millions of documents, the one thing I am shocked by more than the Andrews stuff is what goes to the top of our government under Gordon Brown, under Tony Blair even, and certainly under Keir Starmer. What's been going on with Peter Mandelson?
Well, there is so much in the papers today. I mean, it's literally pretty much every front page, and some of them have gone with slightly more tasteful images of Mandelson than others. The Times has gone for one of him in a little roll neck, and whereas the Mail has gone for one literally with his trousers down. I won't show it because I don't think it's suitable for breakfast television. I don't want to put people off their breakfasts. But, I mean, there is so much information here. It's not just about Mandelson having forwarded sensitive information to Epstein in 2009 when Epstein was convicted for the first time round in 2008. It is also how the sort of demonstration of just how close and how sleazy their relationship was. He calls Mandelson PT, and one email says Mandelson declares his love for Epstein and says he dreams about him. I mean, they were obviously very close friends. One of them that is particularly worrying, which shows how active Mandelson was, is an email in 2009 where he tells Epstein that Jamie Dimon, the boss of JP Morgan, should mildly threaten Alistair Darling when Alistair Darling was Chancellor over the bankers' bonuses.
Yes.
And then, according to Darling's autobiography, he says that he did receive an angry phone call from him. So obviously, he took that advice and did give him a mildly threatening phone call. This sort of stuff is complete. I mean, to say it's unethical doesn't even really touch on it, does it? I mean, this is sleaze on steroids.
It really, I mean, Epstein and Peter Mandelson, I mean, Peter Mandelson is not known, he's known as the Prince of Darkness for a very good reason. What I keep coming back to, though, is the fact that this man, who's already been sacked, asked to resign from government twice before, this comes out. Gordon Brown even asked, when he was in charge, asked Cabinet Secretary to investigate the disclosure of these confidential and market-sensitive information. On September the 10th, that's the same day that Keir Starmer stood up and said he had every confidence in Mandelson. And just before, he announced he was appointing him ambassador to the US. What questions does Keir Starmer have to answer here?
Even at the time when Mandelson was appointed, there were many people who were saying that this was an inappropriate appointment. There's talk already of Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff in Downing Street, who seems to have really been in favour of this. Maybe he will get the sack. Maybe Starmer will try to save his own skin by trying to pin the blame on him. I mean, the implications of this are actually quite huge for this government. Partly because we do see this really important divide between the left of the Labour Party and New Labour. This could, as Charles Moore said, could end New Labour, the New Labour side of the Blairite side of the Labour Party, if McSweeney is axed. And there are other senior figures who have been photographed with Mandelson, including Wes Streeting, seems to have been advising him as well. So the implications of this for our politics are absolutely massive. And you asked, should heads roll? Of course they should. Namely, Starmer should. There are lots of things that Starmer could have resigned for already, but surely this has got to be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
But Mandelson, Emma, when you go back and you look at him, he's had more comebacks than Frank Sinatra. And how does he survive? And you begin to question when you see all of this, is Mandelson in government for the good of the country or for his good? And this looks increasingly personal. It's all about him.
It's like cockroaches can survive nuclear disasters, isn't it? Yeah. He always seems to somehow maintain or project the appearance of control. It's always Mandelson choosing. It's not like other people in politics where things happen to politicians and they are tossed to the whims of fate. He always seems to be in charge. And actually that comes through in this Times interview. I don't know whether this interview was done before the latest tranche of documents was released. I don't know whether this was intended to be some kind of comeback as far as he saw it. But again, the language he uses seems to be one of sort of maintaining control. Nobody expects Peter Mandelson to be honest. He is the OG, the original spin doctor. He's already, as you say, he's got a reputation as being the sort of dark lord of leftist politics.
But Emma, the difference between being honest and being noble, for instance, just so many people are looking and saying, why are you holding on to this lordship that you've got? Why aren't you handing that back? Whether the government can do it or not, why doesn't he just do it?
Well, he should. But then I don't suppose that we would expect him to be so noble and to do the right thing. I think so. He shouldn't have resigned his Labour membership. He should have been pushed by Starmer. They should have acted very, very quickly. In fact, I mean, obviously, he shouldn't have been in the position that he's in the first place. But I think the issue with him as a peer is that he can only be stripped of his peerage by an Act of Parliament. And so they are already talking about, how can we change the rules so that it makes it easier to get rid of peers who behave badly. But of course, any decent person would step up and make the decision to resign. Maybe people wouldn't be happy with that because they would like to see him sort of more overtly punished than still being able to maintain control over his own destiny in that sense. But who expects Peter Mandelson to step up and do the right thing?
Well,
There's nothing more important than keeping you and your loved ones safe online. With so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. And with their Valentine's Day sale, this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GBNews viewers. It's the easiest way to stay safe online, protect your money, and save big for less than £2 a month. Click the link in the video's description or scan the QR code today.
every newspaper basically has got Peter Mandelson, with the exception of The Sun, who are big on Kim Kardashian and Lewis Hamilton.
Which obviously we're going to start with, David. No idea.
So, Mandelson. David, what do you make of Mandelson?
Well, the Prince of Darkness has come back from the dead many times before, but I think he's well and truly had a stake driven through his heart this time. I can't see how he bounces back now. I mean, he resigned twice from cabinet. He was sacked as the ambassador to Washington, and now all this is coming out. All the fears and suspicions people had about him are starting to come home to roost.
And how does that go down? How's that being received at Westminster?
Well, it's no secret that he has lots of enemies in Westminster, and a few I spoke to privately yesterday are actually celebrating phrases like champagne corks are popping here. What surprised them mostly is that he rose to such an extreme height and then fell, which has made his downfall even more painful for him and more damaging. I mean, he's now possibly facing prison if he's convicted of misconduct in public.
And he will love to go around the rest of his life with his passport and his driving licence and whatever, saying Lord Mandelson on it. Will he be able to?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I mean, It's historically very difficult to take away a peerage. It was done in a few cases after the First World War, and there is an Act of Parliament that it has to be an Act of Parliament,
yes.
but there is a procedure. I'm sure that will be invoked in this case. But what I find absolutely unbelievable is the extent to which he will lie to save his own skin. The fact that only a week ago he was giving an interview saying that he was too trusting of Epstein, this was a disproportionate reaction to emails, and now, and of course, the way he spins things is nothing to do with him trusting Epstein. It was him giving away our secrets and giving away information, which is really important to this country's security and financial well-being. I mean, I think he's shown he was actually a danger to the country back when he was in office, and he's still when he was ambassador. His conduct is dangerous.
What surprised me is the quote in the paper this morning. He's a master manipulator. He hangs around like a bad smell. That's not people talking about Mandelson. That's Mandelson still talking about Epstein.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, look, listen, we're getting a reaction coming in all the time.
Joining us now is Health Minister Karin Smyth. Karin, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Karin, I know you're here to talk about the transport for cancer patients, but I just want to talk to you quickly about these stories on the front of all our newspapers today about Peter Mandelson. Surely this does call a Prime Minister judgment into question. Is this a resigning matter?
The Prime Minister was very clear about the first release last September of those shocking emails on Peter Mandelson, and as we're seeing over the last day or so, more and more of these shocking emails come forward. We're all learning much more about this shocking behaviour, about that he shouldn't be a member of the Lords, Peter Mandelson, and the Prime Minister has asked the Cabinet Secretary to investigate some of those emails that we've seen from many years ago.
Karin, civil servants have said this was put to the Prime Minister way before all this. It was in the public domain in 2009. Why was the Prime Minister not aware of it?
I'm not sure what exactly you're referring to there. From as I understand it, emails from that time were asked for by Gordon Brown at the time, or recently, and were looked into. And what's been revealed in the last few days is new information. It is more shocking than I think anyone understood. And obviously, this whole shocking saga emanates from Epstein's behaviour around victims, young women and girls. I think we have to remember those at the heart of this, but we are all learning, seemingly by the hour as people go through these emails, the depth of that involvement by Peter Mandelson, and that's why the Prime Minister has asked the Cabinet Secretary to look specifically at that correspondence when Peter Mandelson was a member of the then government.
Karin, I'm glad you mentioned the safety of women and girls. We interviewed Rhiannon Whyte yesterday, the mum of Rhiannon, who was murdered by an illegal migrant. It was a horrific murder, and Rhiannon was in tears talking about her daughter. She has had no contact from the government whatsoever. Can you tell us why not, please?
I'm not aware of that particular shocking, again, terrible example. Violence against women and girls is a central plank of what the Prime Minister personally is leading work against. We launched our plan on that before Christmas. It's something the Prime Minister led very strongly as a member, as when he led as Director of Public Prosecutions before he was a Member of Parliament. His personal commitment to this agenda, I think, is very clear. He's met many, many victims. He's prosecuted many perpetrators, and he's continued that work with my colleague Jess Phillips in government. I can't comment on that specific example and relationship. I'm afraid I haven't heard of that one. But protection of women and girls against perpetrators, making sure that we support them through the system, having people in police forces across the country to take those allegations seriously is all what we formally announced before Christmas. It's a central plank of what this government will do to protect women and girls from those violent men.
Karen, I'm a little bit surprised you're not aware of this case. I mean, the person that murdered Rhiannon was sentenced to life in prison just on Friday. It was a horrific incident. It's been in all the newspapers. She was murdered by an illegal
I'm sorry, I'm
migrant
not aware of the I'm not aware of what you said was I'm not aware of the contact directly with the government. Obviously,
she's had no
I'm
contact.
Here this morning to talk
Why
about
has no one? Why
our cancer plan for children and.
Yeah,
and
please don't change the subject. This is so important to our viewers. No, this is so important to our viewers.
It is really important, of course.
What are the government going to do about these illegal migrants coming into this country and murdering young women? What are you going to do about it?
Anyone who is involved in violence against women and girls, and certainly anyone who's involved in murder, and as we know, many of these are most of our attacks are by men that are known to us. That is the central policy around trying to protect women and girls in our strategy. Of course, any murder is shocking, and we must prevent that.
Karen, let's talk about these children suffering from cancer, and your idea to cover travel costs of children with cancer. How will that practically work?
So this is really the central ask of children and their families who are diagnosed and being treated for cancer. I met some people involved in the campaign at Downing Street last night. They've been talking about this campaign for 20 years. As part of our national cancer plan, the central ask from them was that travelling is one of those additional worries on top of the already shocking diagnosis when you have a child with cancer. About 1,900 families are affected by this. Help with those travel costs mean that some people have told us that they are making real difficult choices about other support to their families, including good food and support to their families. So making sure that those travel costs are covered takes a little bit of the worry off of families at that particularly troubling time, because many families are travelling long distances. There are only 13 specialist centres across the country. So we've spoken to people. We've got I spoke to a woman, Emma Wilding. Her son Theo is only 5 months old, and she talked about her 45-minute journey. But she also talked about that other families were worse. And I think this is what you find, obviously, when people are going through this. Their altruism and concern for other people shines through. So charities, families have come together to talk to us about what will really help them, and this was a central ask.
I do have to say, just in the 15 seconds left to us, later in the programme, in an hour from now, we're going to be talking to a family who are launching an urgent appeal to get their daughter's leukemia treatment tied in to this whole policy that you've got. I'm sorry, the clock has beaten us. I just want to say thank you and goodbye to you.